How's it going, everybody? It's Stas here. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the CPI data, which, to be honest with you all, it surprised me a bit, and I want to break down the stock market's reaction to this data. So sit back, relax, take a sip of your water, go down below, get your $50 from M1 Finance. All you have to do is use my link, deposit $100, and we each get $50 to invest with, and you guys can check out my Patreon if you want all my real-time moves, plus a morning update video and more access to me. All of that's on Patreon, plus more, linked right down below. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. So judging this move, you can clearly determine in your head that the CPI data was better than expected, because the stock market at 8:30 a.m. on the East Coast, which is when that number was released, went berserk. I mean, SPY, which tracks the S&P, went from 442 all the way to almost 444, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure, that was an all-time high. We hit this pre-market right before market open. So we saw about a 20-point spike, or not a 20-point, a 2-point spike, which in percentage terms was about a 0.4% move right after that data came out. Then we saw a bit of a drop, and we retested 442.60, so the mid 442s, and we bounced off that level, now pushing back over 443, which in my eyes, that is very bullish. And we'll talk more about this, plus other stocks I'm looking at in the video later on today. So make sure you guys subscribe and hit that notification bell. And now, let's go to the Safari tab and talk about these numbers, my perspective on these numbers, and we'll see how many of these different categories, well, the CPI, the inflation has dropped, month over month, which is pretty interesting to see. So bear with me here. I'm going to pop it up on my computer here. I'm using OBS to film this video, so let's pop it up. Let me minimize my face so you guys can read along with me. I don't want to be blocking this, so here we go. If we scroll up a bit, you guys can see the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers increased 0.5% in July on a seasonally adjusted basis, after rising almost double that, 0.9% in June, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. And over the last 12 months, the All Items Index increased 5.4% before seasonal adjustment. And if we go down a bit, pay attention to this chart. Chart 1 here shows the 1-month percent change in CPI for all urban consumers, seasonally adjusted from July 2020, so about a year ago, to July 2021. And what you guys notice is July 2020 was the same number as July 2021, 0.5%. And we saw that drop from July 2020 through August 2020, September, October. We got down to 0.1%. So at that point, hey, we were seeing a drop in inflation. And then we saw a rip from October, November, December, January, February, all the way to June last month, where we saw the 0.9%, which was a huge increase, obviously over the past couple of months. And now we got the pretty big dump off in July 2021 of 0.5%. Now all the transitory guys out there are like, oh, I told you guys, inflation is transitory. But the truth is, it's too early to tell. It's very early. We have to see a couple more months of data. Quite frankly, maybe even a year of data, maybe even more than that, to see how the next couple of months are. Because if you guys look, back in April, we saw, and let me make sure you guys can see this. Yep, you guys can see this. Back in April, we saw 0.8%, and before that, we saw 0.6 in March, 0.4 in February. Then we got the dump off in May, followed by the big spike in June. So who knows? Maybe this dump off is going to be followed by another pop. Let's say in August it's 0.7, followed by in September 0.8, 0.9, and maybe we start going into the ones. That's possible. So just because we got a drop off this month doesn't necessarily mean that inflation's over. Quite frankly, inflation is still hot, and you'll see in the categories in a second here exactly what I'm talking about. And one big category that dropped was the used cars and trucks, which really surprised me. That was actually a big drop. We'll talk about that in a second. So all items right now in July, like we mentioned, 0.5%. Last month was 0.9%, and that is 5.4% of an increase unadjusted 12 months ended July 2021. And we had core inflation, which excludes energy and food, rise by about 0.3% last month, shy of a forecasted 0.4% increase and well below June's rise of 0.9%, which I've mentioned many times in this video. And the core figure is up 4.3% over the last year, a slight deceleration from June's 4.5%. So this is why the markets are running, because inflation isn't as crazy as it was last month, as analysts expected, and it came lower than the estimates. So that's good. You know, the market doesn't want crazy inflation. It wants the inflation to be calm. It wants it to be stabilized. So that is why we're seeing the run in the overall stock market today. Well, tech stocks, on the other hand, aren't doing that well. They were earlier in the day, but now the NASDAQ 100 is down a bit, which again we'll talk about later in the next video, which you guys must subscribe for. Again, I can't say that enough. And now let's look at some of these categories. So food went up 0.7% compared to 0.8%. And there goes Siri talking to me on my iWatch. So food up 0.7% this last month, 0.8% in July or June rather. Food at home, 0.7. Food away from home, 0.8. We had energy, 1.6, which was right in line with what we saw last month. Energy commodities, 2.3, which was also right in line with last month. We saw gasoline, 2.4. And I mean, look at these annualized numbers on energy, all the different subcategories under it. It is unbelievable. We're talking 23% for energy as a whole in the last 12 months, unadjusted, 41% energy commodities, 42% in gasoline. Fuel oil is about 39%. Energy services, 7% last 12 months. Electricity, 4%. Utility, up about 19%. That's utility gas service. So, I mean, this is crazy. This is unbelievable. I have no words for that. It's unbelievable. And all items less food and energy, which is the core inflation number we talked about 2 minutes ago, came in at 0.3 in July, which was much lower than the 0.9 in June. And that's a 4.3 unadjusted 12 months ended July 2021 number there. And look at this. This is where we got a big dump off in commodities less than food and energy, 0.5% in July versus 2.2 in June. New vehicles, 1.7 in July versus 2% in June. So that's not that big of a drop off, but look at this. Used cars and trucks, 0.2%, guys, 0.2% compared to the 10.5 in June, which is just the mother of all drop-offs. And it's still about 41% annualized, which it's crazy, but still, the drop-off from June to July was pretty massive. We had apparel drop-off. We had medical care commodities, services less, energy services such as shelter dropped, transportation services dropped, medical care services increased to 0.3 versus 0 in June. So overall, this is why I can't say it enough. This is why the markets are going up. Literally all of these categories, for the most part, 80% of them, 85% of them, saw a drop-off month over month. But just because we're seeing that doesn't mean that it's all over. I mean, it doesn't mean that inflation is transitory. For all we know, this is a one-off month. where we see a dump off. Sure, maybe supply chains, the bottlenecks are alleviating a bit. But on top of that, another point worth mentioning is, hey, if this Delta gets crazy, we end up shutting down, which, listen, if I were to put an odd on it, I don't like putting odds on things, but I don't think we're going to shut down to the extent that we did a year and a half ago. There's no way. Maybe we do go limited capacity, and maybe we get some bottlenecks, tightening up again. That's possible. In that case, we might see another big spike in this, in these CPI numbers, which again is why it's too early to tell whether or not the inflation's over, it's transitory, inflation's here to stay. We need a couple more months of data at least, in my personal opinion. And I'd love to know what you guys think, and I'll wrap it up there. I don't want to hold you all too long. We're going to make another video. I'm going to film one in about an hour and a half, so I'll end this one. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure to check out my Patreon. If you guys want to see all the moves I'm making in real time, you want call outs as well, a morning update video for the top tier members, make sure to check that out. You get a morning update video every single trading day. And if you want to get more access to me, all that's on Patreon, link down below, or you guys can go to stosserfest.com/Patreon. That's stosserfest.com/Patreon. Make sure to also get your $50 from M1 Finance. Use my link, deposit $100. We each get $50 to invest with, guaranteed. That is linked down below. So that's it. I'll catch you all later. Thanks for tuning in again. As always, keep crushing the market. Stay safe out there. Peace out, guys.